Winning Blueprint presents.
In the lab room, the market.
Wowzers! Zoinks! What is going on? You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. What just happened? Tony Romo just got a $108 million contract over 6 years. Again, don't look at the numbers and allow them to explode your head. Don't do that. Don't look at the deal and say 6 years, $108 million. This guy is raking in the dough. What you do need to look at, however, is the fact that he's getting more than Joe Flacco's $52 million in guaranteed money. That's the big whopper. $55 million in guaranteed money for a guy that hasn't won anything. Now, look, I will say this in Tony Romo's defense. The guy can play some football. He's a really good quarterback. A lot of people give him flack and are on his back about not being able to win big games, and rightfully so. He's lost his fair share of huge games for the Dallas Cowboys over the course of his career, but $55 million guaranteed to a guy that hasn't taken you to at least a championship game? Are we serious here? That's a lot of money. And look, a lot comes with being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, more so than any other team in the National Football League. When you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, it's like playing shortstop for the Yankees. It's like being the star of the Los Angeles Lakers. It means a lot. And so there's some extra added pressure. There's some extra added things that you have to deal with when you're a Dallas Cowboys quarterback, and he's being compensated for all of those things. Being Tony Romo, being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and basically being a really good quarterback. I don't want to take anything away from Tony Romo. I think that people unjustly sometimes don't give him the credit that's deserved. He's a really good quarterback. And I think that he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. He plays really well. The only time he doesn't play well is when he suffers from competition, anxiety, and folds in some of the most critical junctures in important games. You get Tony Romo in weeks 1 through 16, and the guy is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, he's lights out at times. It's when you turn the pressure up just slightly past normal. That's when you get issues out of Tony Romo. But look, if it wasn't for Tony Romo, and this is what I always tell Cowboys fans. My dad is a Cowboy fan. My sister is a Cowboy fan. I know plenty of Cowboy fans. This is what I always tell them when they start jumping off the Tony Romo bandwagon. I always remind them, who was your quarterback before Tony Romo? And they always scratch their head, and they always forget about the Chad Hutchinson days and the Drew Henson days and the Quincy Carter days. They forget about all of that so quickly because Tony Romo has been there for the last 8 seasons or so and played really good football except for in the crunch. And so they love to really pick at Tony Romo and talk about how bad he is and how they need a new quarterback. Oh, how fast they forget how far they've come from the days of Chad Hutchinson and Quincy Carter and Drew Henson. One time I was watching the Cowboys on, what's the show's name? Hard Knocks. And they had, their head coach was good old Dave Campo. What a nice guy he was. and their quarterback was Chad Hutchinson. Boy, did those Cowboys. Boy, did those Cowboys stink or what? And so, need I remind you of where you've come from? Tony Romo is the best thing you've had since Troy Aikman. It's not close. And you don't want to go back to those dark days. And so, I always caution people, unless you have something better to replace Tony Romo with, which you don't, stop talking bad about this man. He deserved to be paid now $55 million. I don't know if he deserved that guaranteed. However, he's a really good quarterback that you can't do better than in Dallas. And so he was handsomely rewarded by Jerry Jones and the Cowboys brass. And look, this move does a lot of things. It gives Tony Romo the confidence and the reassurance that, hey, you're not going anywhere. You're going to be a Dallas Cowboy for the remainder of your career. Get comfortable. You don't have to worry about the rumors swirling. Will this deal get done? Is Tony Romo's days in Dallas numbered? Will they try to replace him? Those are all out of the window. He's not going anywhere. When you pay a quarterback $55 million up front and say, here, you're my quarterback, you're not going anywhere. And so Romo's not going anywhere. So now that's done. Also, what this really does, and this is huge for the Cowboys, especially in the here and now, is it frees up $5 million worth of cap space. Tony Romo's cap number for the 2013 season was supposed to be $16.8 million. This deal, because his base salary is now $1.5 million, plus another $5 million of a signing bonus, plus another $5 million of dead cap money, it's going to amount to about $11.8 million, which is $5 million less than what the Cowboys were going to be on the hook for in the 2013 season. And so that's huge. It frees up $5 million worth of cap space the Cowboys could desperately use to re-sign some other guys, possibly get a deal done with a guy like Anthony Spencer. And so the Cowboys definitely needed this kind of breathing room, and they got it in the form of reaching a long-term agreement with Tony Romo. And so good for Tony Romo, good for the Cowboys. It came at a very costly price, but again, that's what happens when you have a good quarterback in the National Football League. You have to pay him, and it's only going to get worse. Aaron Rodgers is going to get more. Matt Ryan is going to get more. I can't even imagine what it's going to look like when Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III, and if Colin Kaepernick is as advertised, what those deals will look like when those guys' deals expire. I mean, this thing is going to get out of control. It's going to be much like how a rookie #1 quarterback in the draft got to be, where guys getting $35 and $42 million guaranteed before even setting foot on the field. It's going to get out of control like that, where guys are just, because you know these agents are sitting there waiting for the next big deal so they can say, hey, if this guy got this amount of money and my guy has 2 Super Bowl rings, or my guy has 1 Super Bowl ring, or my guy's been to the NFC Championship game X amount of times, and this guy hasn't, then you have to pay my guy X amount of dollars. And so a guy like Matt Ryan, who hasn't won a Super Bowl, but is playing really good football, just went to an NFC Championship game, you know his agent is going to say, hey, if Romo's getting $55 million guaranteed and he hasn't done anything, my guy deserves $57. And then Aaron Rodgers' agent is going to say, well, hey, if Romo's getting $55 and Matt Ryan's getting $57, my guy deserves $60. And it's just going to keep going up and up and up. But that's the day and age that we live in the National Football League. So we go from one NFC East team to another, as Fred Davis and the Washington Redskins have agreed to terms on a 1-year deal. So Fred Davis, despite all of the rumors and the trip out to Buffalo and him basically fanning off the Jets, despite other teams wanting the services of Fred Davis, he opted to go back home to the only NFL team he's ever known in his 5-year career, back to play for the Washington Redskins. Terms of the deal have not been disclosed to this point, but good to know that Fred Davis will be back in Washington playing for the Redskins. And so now he's betting on himself, essentially, a 1-year deal in Washington. It's a prove-it deal. The Redskins want to see if he, in fact, is going to heal fully from the Achilles injury, and they want to see can he stay out of trouble off the field. And Fred Davis is betting on himself in the fact that, hey, I'm going to return better than ever from this Achilles injury. And next year, I'm going to be on the market after having a huge 2013 campaign. And I'm going to command big dollars on the open market next off season. So good move for the Redskins. Good move for Fred Davis. They're back together again. So we're starting to hear some news out of Oakland. The Raiders, their quarterback situation is starting to look a little dicey. You've got Carson Palmer, who is slated to make $13 million this season. And the Raiders simply want him to take a $3 million reduction in pay. Carson Palmer wants no part of it. They said, hey, Carson, can you do us a slight solid? Can you take a $3 million pay cut? Carson said, no, can't do it. He's essentially playing chicken with the Raiders. Who's going to flinch first? How bad do you need that $3 million? Because I don't really want to play for Oakland anymore. I want to win. I'm tired of playing for losers. I'm tired of being in a situation that I didn't sign up for. I signed up to play for Hugh Jackson. I didn't sign up to play for this new administration. This organization seems to be going in a different direction. I just want to win. I'm tired of losing. I spent my entire career losing. I had one good season in Cincinnati, and I got injured, and my career changed forever. Haven't been the same quarterback since then. I've been a little skittish in the pocket at times because of all the trash that's around my knee. I've never mentally gotten over the fact that my knee was torn to shreds in the pocket on a guy falling on my knee after completing a pass. And so I'm not the same guy that I once was. And I just want to win. And so looks like Carson Palmer is ready to stare it down with the Raiders. He's ready to get in an old-fashioned stare down. Hey, don't want to be here, and I'm not taking a pay cut. What are you going to do about it? And the Raiders, they're willing to hold on to him, but for how long? The Raiders need that money. Carson Palmer doesn't want to give it up. Now, all of a sudden, another dynamic has been added to the mix. The Raiders are in deep talks with the Seattle Seahawks about the services of Matt Flynn. And we know the Seahawks came into the season saying, hey, we don't care about Matt Flynn making all of this money. We don't mind paying this guy X amount of dollars to be a backup. Yes, you do. No one wants to overpay for a backup in this league. And so Matt Flynn is being dangled out there by the Seahawks, and they're listening to suitors. The Raiders right now seem to be the biggest ones who seem to be the most interested. And so we're going to see how that all shakes out. I have an eerie feeling that if the Raiders are able to land Matt Flynn, they're going to say adios to Carson Palmer, which makes a lot of sense. Right now, if they were to get rid of Carson Palmer, guess who's their starting quarterback? Terrell Pryor! Yeah, that guy. And we don't know what he can do in the National Football League. Do you trust Terrell Pryor for 16 games as the head of your franchise at the quarterback position? I think not. And so maybe the Raiders feel like Terrell Pryor can get it done. I don't think they do. This is why I think they're trying to make this power move for Matt Flynn. And so we'll see how it all shakes out in Oakland, what Seattle decides to do, what they want for Matt Flynn, because if they're trying to get King's ransom for him, they'll be sadly mistaken, and they'll be left with Matt Flynn on their roster, eating up a lot of cap space that they could be using elsewhere. So if you are the Seattle Seahawks, it'd be in your best interest to really be very, very reasonable when talking about what you want in exchange for Matt Flynn. Now, the Raiders have already been fleeced before. That's how they got Carson Palmer. They were absolutely fleeced in that deal, and they're not going to do it again. This is a different group, different circumstances, not going to happen again. So if the Seahawks really want to get from under Matt Flynn in that contract, they're going to have to be reasonable in what they're asking for. And Matt Flynn is going to have to be reasonable in being willing to redo that deal, because you're not a starting quarterback in this league right now. And we don't know what you're going to be able to do. And so you can't be making the type of money that you're making currently at this very moment. So a lot of different dynamics there. We're going to see what the Raiders decide to do. And if Carson Palmer is in fact released, if the Raiders can make this trade happen, where do you think he's going to land? I have a couple of destinations in mind. But if he's talking about wanting to win, then none of those destinations make any amount of sense. So we're going to see what happens, because right now I'm at an impasse as to what the Raiders are going to do, what they're going to do with Carson Palmer, what Palmer will do if he's released, where he decides to go. It's all a mess right now. But really, would you have it any other way in Oakland? Just when you thought things were starting to get better in Oakland, this happens. The Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders. Gotta love those guys. Couple of quick signings in the league, and then we'll get out of here. Kenyon Coleman leaves the Cowboys to head to New Orleans. Seems like Rob Ryan is starting to pluck a few Cowboys away from his old defensive group in Dallas. He reached out and snagged Victor Butler just the other day. Now he reaches in and double dips and gets Kenyon Coleman from the Cowboys. And so, solid move by the New Orleans Saints, who are switching to a 3-4 defense. You need all of the defensive beef you can get up front. Kenyon Coleman is a solid veteran defender that knows his role and will play it well in Rob Ryan's scheme. And so, solid move by the New Orleans Saints to get a veteran defensive end in Kenyon Coleman. Another move made. Chicago Bears go out and replace their guard that they lost, their best guard, in Lance Lewis, who is now a Miami Dolphin. You lose a guy, you got to replace a guy. And so they go out and get Matt Slauson of the Jets, formerly of the Jets. And so he'll now be the new starting guard, I assume, in Chicago. Look, the Bears don't have a lot of depth on their offensive line. And so I expect Slauson to be able to walk in and start. Now, will that be the case? I don't know. Can't say that for certain. But you lose Lance Lewis. He was your best guard. Brandon Moore is still out there. I expect the Bears to continue to make upgrades to this offensive line. If they think that Matt Slauson is the answer at guard, long term, not sure I'm buying that. I don't think the Bears are buying that. That's why they signed him to a one-year deal. So we'll see what the Bears decide to do. Wouldn't be surprised if they made a couple of moves in the draft. And they made another move or two in free agency. We'll see. But that's a touchdown. Go ahead and throw it up. I'm going to tackle on this quick extra point. Wowzers. I'm still kind of a little disoriented from that deal that Tony Romo got. That is an enormous deal. And the $108 million, I look right past that. That's of no significance to me. The $55 million up front, however, that is humongous. That's monumental money right there. And so for a guy who hasn't won anything, look, Joe Flacco, everyone wanted to make a big deal out of his money. At least the guy won a Super Bowl. But look, I am not one to stop anyone in the National Football League from getting their money. Get it while it's there to be got. And that's what Tony Romo did. And so now he's got the richest guaranteed contract of any quarterback in NFL history. Mind-boggling. Hey, that's what happens when you have a good quarterback. And so that's going to do it for this program. I thank you for joining me here in the lab room today on this Friday evening. Many ways to contact or view the show. There is Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Like me on Facebook. There's Twitter. @In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. So follow me on Twitter. There's YouTube. Louis T is the page. Please subscribe to the page if you haven't already done so. And last but not least, there's the inbox. In the Lab Room @gmail.com is the inbox. Drop a message in there, whether you drop a message at the bottom of one of the videos or you go directly to the inbox. Doesn't matter. I will respond to you either way. And also, I will now be writing for a website called Before the Kickoff. And so start checking that website out, as I will be writing a blog for the NFC East for Before the Kickoff. So that's beforethekickoff.com. I will be a contributor for that site. I will be writing a blog for the NFC East, as I will be the NFC East contributor on that site. So check out all the stories that I'll be writing, and you know I'll be writing one about Tony Romo this weekend. So check that out if you will. Please support the site as well as this page. I thank you for joining me here today. Want to see you back here same time, same place. And as always, have a good one. See you next week.